So, benegir to the Matzav in Eretz HaKodesh, es ist alles verbunden mit Chodesh HaGeula. So the idea of Mir Yehudi, you had one big immigration of Russians who were half Jewish, and the Rebbe was very upset, and he was calling them Seretzach nicht wegen Yidden Bechlal, Seretzach wegen Goyim. He was calling them complete Goyim. There is the concept of Gir Ka'alacha in Golus, which means that you observe certain laws and you take upon yourself certain beliefs. And then there's the Yid in Eretz Yisrael that lives under the theocracy, which is the temple and the king work together. So it's a theocracy. So the Rebbe had to choose: does he believe in the Jew being Jewish because he lives in Judea, and he worships sometimes two gods, and then they try to consolidate and straighten shit out, just like Islam did, fighting off all the polytheistic traditions in Mecca and the surrounding cities. So with monotheism, it's Eliyahu Navi, Ezra, King Uzziah, kicking out all the other worshipping and choosing the one temple among all the other temples, right? So in that case, the Rebbe had to choose whether he's going with his best friends, Bibi Netanyahu and Ariel Sharon, or is he going with the Gullus type of Judaism, which is rabbinic, which is not, you live under a different nation and you keep certain laws and beliefs, and that makes you part of the people. And of course, that's one of the guarantees that you won't assimilate or convert out, and then you'll be, your kids won't be in the tradition anymore. So when the Russians and Ethiopian Jews come to Eretz Yisrael, so they're being mixed in and they're following the Chazal, because Judaism doesn't have another brand. Bibi Netanyahu and Ariel Sharon don't claim to have divine interventions, but if they would live 3,000 years ago, of course they would be claiming to be divine, because even the secular monarchies, the secular regimes and kingdoms like in Rome, as opposed to the theocracy, which God is technically the head of state, whichever God they choose, of course. So even those people claim to be divinely inspired or be divine themselves, like Atzmos Umhos Molovish Beguf, which Kabbalah reintroduced those pagan ideas back into Yiddishkeit. So in that case, Bibi Netanyahu could have been the state. He could have been the David HaMelech. It's not a problem. And his son is dating, let's say, a girl from Sweden. It's just like Shlomo HaMelech with all his concubines. So when the Rebbe, that's why learning, referring to Talmidei Chachamim and going with the consensus of Paskim, always alleviate problems. So in this case, you're just picking on innocent people, men, women, and children, families that will suffer. They won't suffer if they live in Kiryat Bialik or Tel Aviv. In that way, they don't have to worry. But what if they're joining a Chabad shul and the shliach is naive and he believes that whatever the Rebbe said is actually the halacha, which the Rebbe never claimed to be a posek. So in that case, they suffer. And what one of my cousins, older Chabad chassid, a businessman, said to me once when I complained about some wild Chabad behavior, some kids getting violent, they wanted gefilte fish on Shabbos, and I thought I'm going to host them and be, have fun. He said, what are you kreching over there? So really the answer is, and obviously this is not good advice to naive people, because naive people are naive in the first place, but to a naive person they say, what are you kreching? Why are you going to a shul where they don't have a proper understanding of the halacha and the history of halacha and its evolution and Gal Yeshe B'Torah, and they're following someone who himself doesn't claim to be a posek, but just keeps on shooting racism and intellectual asbestos. So you could say, what were you kreching over there in the first place? And the answer is, they were naive. That's how they ended up there in the first place. And some people, just by chance, happened to be in a modern city and had nothing to worry about. The voice of the Lubavitcher Rebbe was just as interesting to them as the voice of Rav Shach. So they really were not in a problem to begin with. So how useless is this when you teach the Sikha to your kids, and these fiery things that my friends like to listen in the car because they like a Rebbe that talks like a Führer with a loud voice and it rises higher and higher. It starts out soft, whoa, roar, roar, like we had during the war in the World War II. So when you have that for fun because of the adrenaline and you enjoy it, that's one thing. But when you actually believe this to be a real claim about reality, even a claim about Torah, we're not talking about science and Torah, we're talking about Torah and Torah, then you have a problem, and it doesn't fit with the Poskim, it doesn't fit with the consensus of Klal Yisrael, and then every five years you have to change the theology. So you're putting your kid into a school and he's learning a science that's going to be outdated in 5 years. Thank you for watching Sheni V'Chamishi.